Chapter 4, My sister Clara finally joins me. For almost a year I had longed for the day on which I could bring my little sister Clara to Neuburg. My wish was finally realized on the 26th of June, 1914. I had spent a happy vacation with my aunt and uncle in Denmark. Franz had left Neuburg with me for he was to enter the university in Copenhagen. My aunt was surprised when she saw me again and she said that I looked just like a little German girl. Victoria had been replaced by a real Fräulein, who wore a black velvet ribbon around her neck. Her language sounded different from the German I was accustomed to in Neuburg. Franz explained to me that Fräulein came from Berlin where all the people talked as if their lips were pinched together with a clothespin. Fräulein had taught Clara to understand German, for my aunt had planned to have her return with me to Neuburg. It must have been a sorrowful day for Franz when Clara and I waved farewell to him. Aunt seemed sad also, and there were tears in her eyes when she kissed us goodbye. She gave me a little brown leather book. Each page had a narrow purple border and there was a real lock with a tiny key. On the cover in small gold letters were the words, "My diary. If you get homesick, a little Greta, this is a friend you can always talk to." This was the last thing my aunt said to me. On the long journey, I told my sister all about her new home and tried to paint a happy picture. I was also anxious to have her make a good impression. As the train rolled into the station, I imagined the pleased ohs and ahs of the Hoffman family as they greeted Clara. But she began to howl at the embrace of the first Hoffman and could not be quieted all the way home. I was so humiliated. Many interesting things had happened while I was away. Neuburg seemed to be full of soldiers. I saw them everywhere. German Papa had become the burgomaster of Neuburg. A small gold key, presented by the citizens, had been added to his collection of watch charms. He had to make many speeches and banquets were frequently given in his honor. Mama complained bitterly that the most she ever saw of him was his suits when they needed to be cleaned. Felix, who was now 17, had been sent to the boarding school in Friedberg. He was getting impossible, his manners were terrible, said Maria. Maria had many beaux, and one of the officers had told her that from now on Neuburg was to be headquarters for military maneuvers. My little playmate Feeny confided that this was all a dreadful nuisance as our usual haunts in the fields and forests were overrun with drilling soldiers. On the second day after our arrival, I took Clara to see her new school. As we passed the post office, I noticed a large crowd of people gathered about the bulletin board. Holding Clara firmly by the hand, I wriggled my way between the agitated burghers toward the message they were reading. It was printed on a red piece of paper and said, June 28, 1914. Their Highness, the Crown Prince and Princess of Austro-Hungary, were killed by a bullet of a Serbian assassin. Everyone seemed solemn and the women crossed themselves. I read the message again and again. The tense feeling and exclamation of the people around me worked me up to such a pitch of excitement that I rushed home to tell the news. Mama fell on her knees and prayed that God would take mercy upon the souls of the royal couple and punish the cruel assassin. No one is safe anymore, said Maria, alarmed. How can an ordinary citizen escape if they will murder royalty? When Papa came home that evening, he seemed very irritated. With big words he explained that the murder was a shameful humiliation for all civilization. Right after dinner he shut himself up in his library and for long hours, we heard him walk up and down the carpet uttering words like humanity, atrocity, disgrace, revenge. We knew that he was preparing a fiery speech. The rest of us quieted down again, maybe because we had said what there was to say or because our own interests seemed more important to us. Fanny, the maid, was washing dishes, Mama and Maria were preparing for the next day when the seamstress was to come. Feeny and I were answering 100 questions that Clara asked about school. Even the city seemed calm again the next morning, and if it had not been for the black veil which was tied to the flag over the city hall, we would surely have forgotten about the sorrow that the 28th of June brought to the royal family. The following days more soldiers arrived, and the castle was fully occupied. Everybody was gay. The merchants and proprietors of restaurants and beer gardens were enjoying the increased business. They all gave credit to their burgomaster for having secured a military base in Neuburg. For this, Herr Hoffmann became their idol and with respect and devotion, they all tried to show their appreciation. Naturally, his family, too, profited by all his honor.